Hey, what's up everyone, Triff here again, and today I want to present you my definitive budget version of my Forbidden Rite Selfcast Occultist build. So I have been trying for a few days to make the build works in a good way while spending the least amount of currency, and this is what I came up with. So this presentation build was made for a total budget of approximately 20 exalted orbs, and it is the minimum I would recommend to start playing the build. You can however play with even cheaper gear, but it won't really feel good in my opinion. So let's jump into a few clips of some maps and bosses that were made with this budget character.
Less real and more struggle or strangle. Avail of safety after security. Tight staircase. Take this vitality boon. What a steal! Feel death cold. Lost immortality tightly. I resemble a return. Grip of the infinite. Tight staircase. Delightfully unusual. Put on a good show. Feel death's pull. Mortal flesh is so fallible. Such wildly delightful desperation.
So as you can see, the build is already very good in my opinion with this budget gear. The DPS is surely good enough for most of the content in the game, the tankiness feels pretty nice too, I very rarely die. The only thing that I feel a real difference is the speed of the character. It rocks well for sure, but I would say whenever you can, try to change your boots as a priority, cause getting a pair with Tailwind as well as Elusive will really make the build feel a lot better in terms of speed. Alright, let's now take a quick view at the gear, the gems and the passive skill tree I am using to see what changes compared to my more advanced version of the build. So as it is basically the core part of the build, we want to use 2 Void Battery as our weapons and a badge of the Brotherhood anointed with Infuse for the amulet. Then we will need a body armor with the Redeemer mod chance to gain a frenzy charge on hit, and the Hunter mod plus percentage to spell critical strike chance. This is how we are going to generate our frenzy charges. For the rings, unlike the higher budget version of the build, we are going to use 2 Vermilion rings still, but without any influence to make it cheaper. And instead of life gain on hit mod from the Shaper, we are going to use more of the damage taken recouped as life mechanic instead. So we are just looking for rings with good life and good life recoup and an open prefix to craft minus the total mana cost. For the helmet, I just bought a cheap base with the enchant Forbidden Rite fires an additional projectile and made it Warlord influence, and then I just crafted it with +1 to maximum power charges. For the boots, it is really important that you have the Labyrinth enchantment, 18% reduced mana cost of skills if you have been hit recently, else you will have some mana issues. Then for this budget version we are just going for elusive with some movement speed and onslaught and some life. And if you have a bit more budget, I definitely recommend to invest a little bit more into the boots and get a pair that also has tailwind, as it will make the build feel really good in terms of speed. Then for the gloves we are using an Eldritch pair this time with chance to unnerve enemies on hit and chaos damage leached as life. It will be a very good way to sustain your life until you get a better Glorious Vanity Jewel with Revitalizing Darkness, or a good pair of Hands of the High Templar with Despair on hit. The belt is the item I would go for in the last place, as it doesn't really have any required stats needed, so just use it to finish your build and fill up your resistances or attributes problems. Take note that the Abyssal Jewel can have up to 3% of damage taken recouped as mana mod, so if you can find one like this to put in the belt, it will help a lot with mana issues. Let's now take a look at the passive skill tree and all of the jewels that you will need. So the first one is a Watcher's Eye, and on this you want the Vitality mod, life gain for each enemy hit while affected by Vitality. It is a very big part of our life sustain, and it is a very important jewel to have. Then we will need 2 large cluster jewels with Touch of Cruelty, Unholy Grace and Unwaveringly Evil. This is the combination of mods that will allow you to have Unholy Grace in a good place. We will also want 1 medium cluster jewel with Towering Threat and Magnifier. Again, this is the best for the budget version, but if you have a bit more currency you can go for Towering Threat and Vast Power instead of Magnifier. For the small cluster jewels we will need 4 of them, and 2 of them will be 2 passive skill points to Chaos Resistance jewels with the Born of Chaos Notables. Each of them will give you +3 to maximum Chaos Resistance. Then you will also want one of them being Increased Mana Reservation Efficiency of Skills with 2 points always, and one of them being Right House Path to help with the mana reservation. And the last one is a 2 points Increased Armor with the Enduring Composure notable to help with gaining endurance charges. And then you should be left with 2 extra jewel slots, and one of them will be most likely a Replica Conqueror's Efficiency to help with the mana cost of skills early on, and for the last one you can get either a basic jewel with reduced mana cost or an Abyssal Eye with % of damage taken recouped as mana. And the last and most important jewel of the build is the Glorious Vanity Timeless Jewel. So you want it to be in the name of Xibaqua to have the Divine Flesh Keystone to boost your maximum chaos resistance. Then the Timeless Jewel will change all of the notables in the radius with new random ones. And it is very important that you find one of these jewels with the Ritual of Shadows notable. This is what will allow us to wither enemies on hit, and this is literally half of the DPS of the build. So be sure to find one with this Ritual of Shadow notable. For our Ascendancy we want to take in the budget version the Malediction notable to give us an additional curse and therefore save a bunch of currency on the body armor. I am still using this Malediction notable on my endgame version by the way, as I personally prefer it, as it makes you more tanky and have a little bit more damage, but I know a lot of people like to have the Profane Bloom notable. For the Pantheon you can use early on the Soul of the Brine King to help with stun issues, and once you have more life and armor, you can switch to the Soul of Lunaris for better speed and tankiness. As the minor god, you always want to use the Soul of Shakari and capture the Restless Shade. It will reduce by 5% all of the chaos damage you take, and that includes the self damage you are dealing to yourself with Forbidden Rite. And lastly, let's take a quick look at the gems I am using in this budget version. So on the first one I have Cast When Damage Taken with Despair and Assassin's Mark, and I am using Warlord's Mark for mapping. So you will most likely need to have a white socket on one of your wands to be able to swap between Warlord's Mark and Assassin's Mark. And we are using Despair with Cast When Damage Taken as the budget version, is not using Despair on hit rings or Hands of the High Templar with Despair implicit. On my second wand I have Vitality with Divergent Berserk and Flame Dash. The Divergent Berserk gem is only a few chaos and it will give you 5% more spell damage while Berserk is active. On the helmet I have Cast When Damage Taken with Ball Lightning, Arcane Surge and Greater Multiple Projectiles. On the gloves I have my aura setups with Zealotry, Purity of Elements, Determination and Enlightened support. So this one is level 3, but a level 2 should also work if you get 1 extra point on your passive skill tree. On the boots I have Cast When Damage Taken with Anomalous Molten Shell, Divergent Purifying Flame and Anomalous Onslaught support. Again, those are some very cheap alternate quality gems that have pretty good effects. On the body armor we have our DPS setup, which is Forbidden Rite with Anomalous Greater Multiple Projectile support, Power Charge on critical, Spell Echo, Increased critical damage and Void Manipulation support. So you will need Anomalous Greater Multiple Projectiles to make the build work properly, as it reduces the mana cost of skills by 20%. This is the most expensive gem of this budget version, but the build will not work without it. So that's it guys, it is the best I could do to make this character work in a decent way with the minimum of investment. Again, all of the gear that I presented in this video is worth approximately 20 Exalted Orbs in total, and I will in the next video show you exactly what I paid or how I crafted each piece of gear from this budget version. And I will also give you some tips and live searches links to get this kind of gear for yourself. Please subscribe to my channel if this video helped you or if you want to see more of my content, and I hope that this video gave you a good idea of what the build is capable of doing within a 20x budget. And be sure to tune in on my next video to know how to acquire the gear in the most efficient way. So I see you guys in another video and have fun, thanks for watching!